Today, in Nature Matters with Dr. Jenny, we're going to talk about how to keep your kids warm while playing outside this winter. Now, there are two essential pieces of clothing that your kids absolutely need to keep them as warm as possible this winter while playing outside. And those two things are wool mittens and wool socks. So wool is a very unique fiber and it's different from cotton and synthetic. And the main way that it's different is that it can actually hold heat even if it's wet. So cotton, if it gets wet, it automatically cools. It's part of, convective cooling. That's why we wear a lot of cotton t-shirts in the summer, because we sweat, it gets cold, the wind blows past us, and we stay cool. But we don't want that in the winter, right? Because we're already wet from playing in the snow and it's probably going to be windy. We don't want our kids to lose a lot of heat. And wool has a really cool property that if it gets wet, it can still keep your kids warm. So here's the trick with buying wool. Not all products that are labeled wool are created equal. In fact, there's a lot of products on Amazon that are labeled wool that are completely synthetic fibers. So you have to be really, really careful when you read the descriptions. But basically, you want to look for something that is at least half wool. It might be wool and synthetic. It might be 60% or 70%. And a really good company that you can go to look for wool products is called Smart Wool. They use merino wool in their products. I own a lot of Smart Wool socks and gloves, and they do a great job. The socks are comfortable, they're soft, they're not itchy because they use a merino wool in a blend, and then they keep you really warm. So if you're going to spend money on two items to keep your kids warm, really the ones that you want to focus on are socks and gloves, and you want to focus on getting something that's wool. And so let me show you. These are a pair of my gloves, and fingerless gloves that turn into mittens are a great investment for kids. Unfortunately, they are very hard to find. You can find fingerless gloves for kids online anywhere, but finding ones that are wool are very difficult. And so if your kids are a little older, one strategy that you can use is you can buy small women's gloves. They're still going to be very small. They might be a little bit big for your children, but it's something that they can grow into because wool is a very hardy fiber, and they will last a long time. So these gloves, I've had them for over 10 years and they still work great. And so kind of consider that. Obviously, if it's a baby, you want to buy mittens because fingers just don't work well for younger kids. And if you look at the blog post that this video is connected to, then you can see lists of actual products that will take you directly to Amazon and you can purchase those. So other clothing items that might be necessary for winter play are going to be waterproof jackets, waterproof suits or pants, and then waterproof shoes. And these are items that you can have a little bit more leeway. So we talked about the two most important things are high quality wool, gloves, and socks. But when it comes to jackets and snowsuits and boots, those are things that you can either borrow from a friend or you can purchase at a thrift store, because the thing is they need to be waterproof because you're going to be outside and playing in the snow. But other than that, really what you need are a lot of layers. So you could wear, sweaters and jackets underneath and then put a raincoat on the top. And your child is going to stay warm with all the layers on the inside. And then they're also going to have that outer layer that protects them from getting wet from the snow. And the same thing is true for snow pants. They could wear liners or long johns, and then on top of that they could wear a pair of jeans, and on top of that they can wear their snow suit or snow pants. And again, it's the layers that's going to keep them warm, and then the waterproof shell that's going to keep them dry. And the same thing with shoes. You don't want to send your kids outside in the snow in tennis shoes, right? Because their feet are just going to be soaking wet in 2 seconds and they're going to be miserable. So really you want some type of shoe. Typically it's going to be a boot, right? That's waterproof. And you really also want something that's over the ankle, because what that's going to do is that's going to give their ankle a little bit more support, because let's be honest, it's cold and it's slippery outside. They're going to be running and jumping. Your kids are going to fall. And so you want to give them a shoe that protects their ankle a little bit so they don't twist their ankle when they fall. So the last thing I want to talk about are hats and scarves. And these are things that you can either buy very inexpensive or you can borrow them from a friend, but to be honest, you probably already have them around your house. And we all know that hats are very important because it helps hold the heat in, and you don't necessarily need a wool hat because it's not like your kids are spending a lot of time on their heads, right? So if they're outside playing in the snow, it's not like they're getting completely covered in snow. They might be, and if they do, and if that's kind of normal for them, then you may want to consider buying a wool hat, but it's not necessary. Wool tends to be more expensive than other fibers, so if you're gonna spend money on outdoor gear, you really want to focus on the gloves and the socks. And then also, besides a hat, you'll probably also want to consider a scarf or maybe a gaiter. Gaiters are really, really good for kids. They're basically kind of like the sleeves that go over their necks. And they're great for kids because you don't have to worry about having all these little strands flying around and it choking them and everything else. Scarves can get a little bit cumbersome for children, but gaiters are real easy. You just slip it on like you would a shirt, and then they have it and it protects their neck, especially if it's cold outside and it's really windy. You're going to need that protection around their neck. And then also they can pull it up over their mouth and even over their nose and sometimes over their ears to keep them a little bit more warm. So gaiters, in my opinion, are better than scarves when it comes to kids. And you can buy these online that are fleece, and that will keep your kids very warm. And they're also pretty inexpensive. Now let's do a quick recap. In this video, you learned all the necessary clothing items that your kids will need to stay warm in the winter. So wool gloves, wool socks, waterproof jacket, waterproof pants, waterproof shoes, and then finally a hat and a scarf. And if you're gonna spend money on any of these items but you're on a budget, you wanna focus on the wool gloves and the wool socks. Those are most important. Now you have the tools you need to get outside with your kids and play in the snow without being cold. If there's anything that you've seen in this video that has helped you to get outside with your kids, then hop on over to my Facebook group and leave a comment. You can find the link somewhere, or you can post a photo on Instagram and tag me at Nature Matters with Dr. Jenny. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel. We post new videos often and you never know what you're gonna learn. So get outside and explore nature. It matters.